What would you do if the place you called home turned against you, wielding rules like weapons and neighbors like spies? On the tranquil shores of Willow Lake, where the water shimmered like glass under the morning sun, Elias Carter thought he'd found peace. At 62, he'd traded the chaos of city life for a modest cabin, a fishing boat, and the quiet rhythm of casting lines into the lake he secretly owned. But peace, as Elias would learn, was a fragile thing when the Willow Lake Homeowners Association had other plans. Elias had lived on the lake's edge for 3 years, his days marked by the gentle lapping of waves and the occasional tug of a fish on his line. His cabin, weathered but sturdy, sat on a plot he'd bought outright, a plot that included the lake itself and the parking lot where the HOA held their smug monthly meetings. He'd never told a soul about his ownership, preferring solitude to the petty politics of the neighborhood. The HOA, led by the iron-fisted Karen Whitaker, ruled with a clipboard and a sneer, enforcing rules about mailbox colors, lawn lengths, and even the appropriate shade of window blinds. Elias kept to himself, dodging their radar until the day his fishing boat became their target. It started with a letter, slipped under his door like a thief's calling card. Unauthorized watercraft detected. It read, signed by Karen in her looping, self-righteous script. Elias chuckled, tossing it into the fireplace. His boat, a beat-up but beloved skiff named Serenity, was his lifeline. He'd bought it with his late wife, Mara, and every scratch on its hull carried a memory of their laughter on the water. The HOA could fuss all they wanted. Elias knew his rights, but Karen wasn't one to back down. The next morning, Elias woke to find Serenity gone. The dock was empty, the rope cut clean. His heart pounded as he scanned the lake, hoping to spot her faded blue hull. Nothing. Fury rising, he marched to the HOA's office in the community center, a squat building on his parking lot. Inside, Karen sat behind a desk, her blonde bob as sharp as her tone. "Mr. Carter," she said, not looking up, "your boat violated Regulation 17B. It's been impounded for safety." "Safety?" Elias snapped, his voice rough from years of pipe smoke. "That boat's safer than your ego. Where is she?" Karen smirked, sliding a form across the desk. "Pay the fine and you'll get it back. After inspection, of course." Elias leaned in, his weathered face inches from hers. "You had no right to touch my property." She didn't flinch. "We have every right. This lake is HOA managed. You'll comply, or the police will handle it." That afternoon, 2 officers knocked on Elias's door. Karen stood behind them, arms crossed, her eyes glinting with triumph. "He's a nuisance," she told them, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "His boat's a hazard, and he's been hostile." Elias, calm but seething, explained his side, but the officers, weary of HOA disputes, suggested he sort it out civilly. As they left, Karen's parting shot stung worse than the theft. "Maybe if you respected the community, you wouldn't be so alone." The words cut deep, stirring memories of Mara. She'd been the one to charm neighbors, to host barbecues, to make a house a home. Without her, Elias felt like a ghost in his own life. But he wasn't defeated. Not yet. Enter Millie, the twist in this tale. A spry 70-year-old with a shock of silver hair and a penchant for chaos. Millie lived 3 cabins down. She wasn't part of the HOA, called them a bunch of busybodies with too much time and too little sense. Elias barely knew her, but that evening, she appeared at his door with a bottle of bourbon and a glint in her eye. "Heard about your boat," she said, pouring 2 glasses. "Karen's been crowing all day, but I've got something she doesn't know." Millie, it turned out, was a retired county clerk with a knack for digging up records. Over bourbon, she revealed her discovery. The HOA's charter was built on a lie. They claimed authority over the lake, but their paperwork was outdated, referencing a public trust that had dissolved decades ago. Elias's deed, however, was ironclad. He owned the lake, the lot, everything. Millie grinned, her eyes sparkling. "You could shut them down, Elias. All of them." The idea lit a fire in him. For years, he'd let the HOA's pettiness slide, but stealing Serenity was a step too far. With Millie's help, he crafted a plan. The next HOA meeting was in a week, and Elias would be ready. The meeting was a circus of complaints, crooked mailboxes, unapproved flower beds, a dog that barked too loudly. Karen presided like a queen, her gavel banging with every ruling. Elias sat in the back, silent, his weathered hands clutching a folder. When Karen opened the floor for new business, he stood, his presence drawing every eye. The room hushed. "I've got a question," Elias said, his voice steady but laced with steel. "Who gave you the right to steal my boat?" Karen's smile faltered. "Mr. Carter, we've discussed this. Your boat is on my lake," Elias interrupted, tossing the folder onto the table. Papers spilled out his deed, the title to the lake, the parking lot, all notarized and undeniable. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen's face drained of color as she scanned the documents. "You've been trespassing on my property for years," Elias continued. "Every meeting, every fine, every time you parked your cars here. And you stole my boat." The room erupted. Neighbors turned on Karen, demanding answers. She stammered, her authority crumbling. "This is a misunderstanding," she managed, but no one listened. Elias pressed on, his voice rising. "I'm shutting this down. The HOA's done. And I want Serenity back by morning, or I'm pressing charges." The victory should have felt sweet, but as Elias left the meeting, Millie caught his arm. Her face was grim. "They found your boat," she whispered. "It's at the impound lot, but it's wrecked." Elias drove to the lot in silence, his heart sinking with every mile. There was Serenity, her hull splintered, her deck smashed. Karen's impound had been a tow truck driver who'd botched the job, dropping the boat on concrete. Elias ran his hand along the shattered wood, memories of Mara flooding back her laughter, her hand on his as they fished under the stars. The boat wasn't just a thing. It was his last tie to her, and now it was gone. He could have sued. He could have destroyed Karen, the HOA, the whole lot of them. His ownership gave him power to evict, to fine, to ruin. But as he stood over Serenity's wreckage, Elias felt no hunger for revenge. What was the point? The lake was his, but it felt empty without Mara. The HOA was broken, but so was he. The next day, Elias posted a sign on the community center. Lake and lot closed until further notice. He didn't attend the frantic HOA meeting that followed, didn't answer the calls from neighbors begging for leniency. Instead, he sat by the water, Millie at his side, the bourbon bottle between them. "You could rebuild her," Millie said softly, nodding toward the lake. "A new boat, a new start." Elias shook his head, his eyes on the horizon. "Some things you can't rebuild," he said. "You just learn to live with the pieces." Karen moved away a month later, shamed into silence. The HOA dissolved, its rules fading like ripples on the lake. Elias kept the lake closed, letting the water grow wild, the fish untouched. He never fished again. The victory was his, but the cost was a hollow ache no deed could fill. Power, he'd learned, didn't heal loss. It only made it louder. Yendi.